You're watching Honoring the Armor podcast, hosted by Coach Nikki M.
Honoring the Armor family, we are in for a treat. I know that y'all thought eventually somebody from my family was going to be sitting on this couch. But I bet you thought it was going to be my mama. You were wrong. First, it was my mother in law. Then, it was my husband. Now, it's my brother. Let's give a very, very, very big and warm Honor the Armor welcome to my brother Wayne. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
You quite well.
I love that when I asked you, like, hey, you watched the episodes? Yeah, I watched some of them. So you know what we're going to be talking about? Yeah, pretty much, for the most part. So we grew up with the same mama, y'all. Very different experiences, I'm sure. So I'm so glad that my brother is here today to talk about his experience of emotional armor from either our mother or our father. And his experience is, I think, very key as a parent, right? And specifically a dad, whether or not he feels that that's something he has recognized within himself, armored parenting or not. So let's maybe start off talking a little bit about what you've heard me say, right? About wanting more of mommy and more access to her, right? To who she is as a woman and as a person. And I think I described it most recently as like, she's like, I'm right here. I'm your mother. You over there. And in the middle, there's love. But I'm going to just need you to still be over there. It's kind of how I describe her armor and her way of like not talking about things. And I call that blocking my access to her, right? Was that something that you feel like you experienced of her?
Now that I'm literally being asked a question, it's a lot different. I don't think that it was like that with mom with me. I think she was kind of a little bit more open about things, and maybe it's because I'm thinking now she wanted to teach me, about the emotional differences of people, especially, me being a male and futuristically would encounter my own female, my wife, girlfriend, whomever, at different ranges and different points in my life. I think she was open to me about most of her life experiences. And I think it's because of the needing to know and to understand and to acknowledge, the woman. So, I have a different perspective.
So you feel like she was open with you about
Certain things.
certain things, not
everything.
everything, but
Right.
certain things about her journey as a woman because she wanted to prepare you for encountering women and interacting with women as you got older. That's interesting. Mom, listen to what he is saying. I feel like I was the youngest, so I got the short straw.
Nah, you got the long end.
I got the long straw. So, what do you think? And I mean, obviously, not to delve too personally, right? Because I asked this to my brother-in-law, my husband, if they knew my mother-in-law as a woman. They were like, yeah, 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 yeah. But then when I asked my husband, well, what do you know about your mother as a woman? He's like, it was like real silent. And he couldn't tell me a lot. He's sitting over there, y'all shaking his head. So, what is it that you feel like as a woman you understand about mommy, and what do you know about her as a woman?
I understand all about my mom for real. I understand her strengths. I've understood her journey. I've understood her concerns as a mom for her kids. I've understood her need to be her herself as well as a parent, and also, somebody that we could talk to and confide in, because that's hard as parents to get your kids to trust you enough to sit down and listen and or talk to you even.
So it sounds like you feel like there's this like parallel self that she has, the mother, but then there were glimpses that you got to see of her journey as a woman and discussions that she had and things she shared with you about that journey.
About her youth, pre-marriage, about her experiences coming into her marriage, coming into her parenting. There's a lot that I came to understand even just watching Mom, you know what I'm saying? And watching her evolve, watching her make mistakes in life, because, there is no format or guideline to, first of all, to being a person. There's no book to that. There's no book to having a good character, being a great person. There's no, there's not a specific breakdown in any direction, male or female, which way to go, which way to grow, and discovering that is when people begin to change, when people come into themselves and begin to understand themselves. I think that's when people grow most. So having had an early journey at a young age and becoming a parent, I'm sure was hard, and having to figure out certain things as a young parent, I'm sure was even more difficult. But I commend my mom, man. I always tell anybody that, and if you can understand the concept of my mind, it's my mom is the strongest man that I know. Yeah.
Now break that down for us. That's deep.
Well, it's simply enough because in our own essence as men, we're taught to be ever so strong, right? But even life itself can weaken the strongest man.
That's right.
But in my eyes, my mom has always been stronger than the strongest man. I've never really seen her at a really weakened, vulnerable point. Now, has there been areas where there have been uninformed decisions as an adult? We all have those, yeah. And we all consequentially deal with the things that come behind those uninformed decisions. But more or less, my mom has always been a strong person to me. Like, no matter what, she's always kept her head up, man, kept it moving. Whatever it took, whatever it takes, to get you to where you're trying to go. I don't mean that in the sense of anything goes, but, in the sense of you keep trying and you don't stop and you don't give up. So that's why I'm able to sit here today,
Do you think that, because as I'm hearing you talk about that, keep trying and don't stop, one of her key phrases as we were growing up was like, nothing beats a failure but a try. You know what I'm saying? Remember that? Like you better figure it out. You better try, right? And keep trying.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Dad kind of gave it to me like this. He said, and it just kind of describes life. He said, son, in some areas in life, you see people try things and they get it the first time. For some people, it might take 10. For some, it'll take 100. For some, it might take 1,000. He said, but the whole point is you don't stop till you reach your goal. So kind of in between, it don't give up, and between 100 and 1,000, either way it goes, I was there. I never stopped. I didn't give up. I had to keep going, So those are the measures of some people personally, some people, the whole measure of life. It's a journey either way. You can't not go through it. So what do? You keep going.
Do you think because she had to be so strong, right? That that is a place where she developed emotional armor because she was a single mom raising 3 kids, and she absolutely had to. I got to take care of these kids. I got to raise these kids. I got to look out for these kids. Do you think that that was not only necessary, but that is also a way that you end up developing armor?
I would agree. But I think that in being a single parent, just my perspective, I think that was secondary with mine. I think having intellectual, educated children was primary. So quite naturally, instinctively, she was going to take care of us. But it's what am I giving you in between taking care of you? I think to me is what mattered most to her. You know, okay, I can raise you and show you how to take care of yourself, but what am I actually giving you that's going to sustain you? You know, so to me, that was the first key element. Let me not just raise my children, but let me educate my kids as well. Not just on basic things, you know, basic life tasks, basic understanding. You know, she went beyond. She challenged our brains. Remember, we were made to write with our left hand and sign and do alphabet. And no, seriously.
No, for
And
real. I was thinking when you were saying
I
like,
often tell, you know, it was punishment it wasn't always a physical thing. It's a book on the shelf downstairs.
okay, first of all, remember when she used to make us walk with books on our heads? Who ever needed posture that
Or you had
well?
to sit in the corner, stand in the corner and hold the book. But those were to me, listen to this, and I realize now those were the developmental things that were necessary to allow her a reset break,
Okay.
if it makes sense.
No, I hear you.
Because what happens in some households, parents explode because of the pressures. Single parent, 3 children, worries, stresses. Then I got 3 different personalities coming all at me at the
For
same
sure.
time. So a lot of times there's an implosion as opposed to, hey, get this book. You need to walk. You need to stand over there and be quiet for a minute, and you just find something to do. You know, so it was to me a well strategized plan that worked over years. Man, we often laugh at some of the things that brought us as child in our childhood that we came from as children, but there are a lot of the key things that make us who we are. If you think about it,
That's
a
fair.
lot of the family's lessons, even from the aunties, the uncles, the grandmas, the great grandmas, all of those lessons we never thought. We always used to say, just like school, we don't need this.
Yeah.
And in all actuality, we need every bit of it. So this is what gets us through as people, and this is why we become the adults that we are. It's because of the necessary influence that our parents have had over us. I always tell my mother, man, relax, you did a great job. Even with me, you know, I admit that I was the problem kid. Not problem. Here's where I came to understand myself. I wasn't intellectually challenged enough for me to evolve in a different manner than what I did, if that makes sense. And I even asked Mom one day, I said, why didn't you put me into more things? She asked me, why did you ask that? I said, because I came to realize that my journey and venture into the world, let's say, let's not say just the streets, came, and I don't think you even know this. I've always been a high intellectual. Reading, I mastered that. Science, I mastered that. Nature, I mastered that. Understanding people at a young age, I think I kind of got a hook on that early. So I came to realize as an older adult that my difficulties came from not having been intellectually challenged enough and not being able to apply my knowledge and my intellect where it should have been applied, which means in different areas of scholastics, sports, even different academic, areas where I could have been challenged with my hand and my mind because this is where I work best at. So I explained it to my mother. She said, "Why did you ask me that?" Well, because I came to realize the reason that I took to the world is because I had yet to conquer that.
Okay.
That was my biggest challenge. Everything else that challenged me, I pretty much overcame. I had no fear of. I understood the way it worked, the operations of it, the breakdown. Remember, I used to take things apart in Mommy's house. So there's things that I wanted to know. How do these things operate? So that was the way my mind worked. Why is it that I can't go this way? What's over here that I shouldn't go to that should have me prefer to go this way?
Right.
So, it's like I just basically set out to conquer everything that was out there that was challenging. And it brought me to a place to understand that my biggest challenge for real was me.
Okay.
It was me. It wasn't the world, because the world wasn't going to exclude me or include me unless I did so myself first.
Right.
So I came to really see that my biggest overall challenge and journey was understanding me.
That's deep. Yeah. Now I'm going to take you back to something that you said in the beginning. You said that you feel like mommy didn't tell you everything about her journey, childhood, her teenage years before she got married, but she shared some things with you very intentionally, right? Now I'm going to put you on the spot a little. Now she watches these episodes, so don't get in trouble, okay? Just telling you. Why do you think that she didn't do that for me? I know, don't get in trouble.
No, I have a great answer. Because as parents, and I'm speaking from my own perspective, remember, I fathered 3. You grow and you learn. So the things that were necessarily challenging with my older children, I learned to do differently and address those challenges differently with the youngest of my children, if that makes sense. Now, here's where you might not notice the difference either. Now, always being the youngest, you never probably thought this. You learn what not to do by the mistakes me and your sister made.
Facts.
So that's just where it lies. And sometimes we don't know that our parents see and realize this. Wow, this one is definitely different. I don't want to make the same mistakes with this one that I made with the previous 2 or the previous 4 or however many came before, whomever may be the youngest. So there, to me, is an educational learning process, even as an adult parent, that sometimes parents arrive at or tend to go through, and don't even themselves realize it. And it's just a mature growth process. I myself learned with my first 2 kids to allow them to express themselves, first of all. Therefore, I can understand you in a moment of rage, in a moment of frustration, in a moment of anger. I can help. It helps me to process your thoughts. It helps me to understand your problem-solving mechanisms, where they may or may not lie. So there comes a lot of change when you grow as a parent as well as watching your kids grow. Because the more that I grow, the more I can help them grow. One thing I also, like, of course, as kids, we always told, sit down, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. But how do we know that this kid or this child don't know what they're talking about
Right.
unless we hear them out? So that's one of the things that I began to exercise doing, listening to these kids, listening to my children. Because how can I understand you? Also, like looking back on like being an early parent,
Yeah.
I distinctly remember having this epiphany. Like I was walking through, it was Woodland Hills Elementary. I always dropped the kids off at school in the morning. And I would walk to class with them and sometimes sit in the class and monitor them. But it was one day I just remember walking through the halls and just observing a lot of the other little children. And it became clear to me that it's like, wow, kids are people too. And I say that to mean that here I am and looking at young future adults, right? This is what we never acknowledge, I think, as older people, that even little kids have difficulties and issues coming into even their pre-teenhood,
Right.
because we never know what goes on in individual households, right? And we never know what it takes for a child to get up and get to school in the morning. Some children deal with abuse. Some children deal with serious lack. Some children deal with absence of a parent, absence of authority. You know, some children deal with poverty, meaning, you know, lack of food in the home, lack of utilities, lack of clean clothing, lack of proper grooming, you know, things in that manner. And I'm just observing all the different little kids. And I was like, wow, nobody ever really sat back and had thought and understood that we all focus on how difficult it is being an adult. More importantly, what about the little people?
Right. You talked about becoming a parent at a young age. And so when you think about that, like who you were with your first, and then think about your youngest, so oldest to youngest. Do you recognize any places on that journey where you were practicing armored parents, right? You were practicing armored parenting. So maybe you were not fully open about your journey as a man and as a person, and maybe you were withholding yourself a little bit, and you were like, I'm your father, this is it, this is the relationship, this is how it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm your father, do what I tell you. You don't, I don't want you to be better than me. Yeah, I remember that journey. I think then, yeah, I had way more of an armor up because I was honestly, here's what it was for me. I jumped into an adult world and an adult life. And again, I always use the term, I don't like to use the term stupid or dumb. It's just uninformed. It's just uninformed. I made uninformed decisions. You know, there's no way you can research a relationship. Like, so I honestly didn't take the time to think about the enormous responsibility of becoming a parent, a significant other, and the things that were necessary to create a base for that, and also the things that were necessary and continuous that needed to help to build that structure, and the things that I were responsible, you know, my role and the responsibilities that I held. I understood them, but I didn't fully understand them.
Right.
Because you got to understand, I started at a young age, and, you know, there were some things that I hadn't learned as of yet. The importance of certain things, and then also I was in an area where I was still a teenager, basically. So, yeah, my armor was up. There was a lot of things that I don't like to use the term wish I would have done differently. There are some things that I just wish that I would have had been well more informed about,
Okay.
which would have allowed me to make different decisions.
When do you think that whether armor chips away, chisels away, or falls away, when do you think that that started to happen for you, where you started to recognize that you needed to show up more, open and less armored as a parent?
It was when I realized that I needed help understanding my manhood, understanding my struggles, understanding why I was struggling. And that part is where my dad came in. See, I understand and I see, this is just my perspective. There's really a huge difference in the rearing of children in a two-parent household as opposed to a single-parent household. And just from my personal experiences, having been raised solely by my mom, who, by the way, like I continue to explain to people, did a wonderful job, in spite of whatever challenges she may have encountered and whatever extreme difficult situations, Mom always stood strong. But as a young male child, my needs were different. At a certain age, my needs were different. Now, and I'm not saying this to take anything from women.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on, y'all.
Yeah,
Okay,
buckle
go-
up.
buckle
Yeah, I'm
up.
ready to get deep. No, I'm just kidding. It's just my perspective. It
Yeah.
was just my own personal observation. As mothers, right? Women do the very, very best jobs that they can with whatever little that they may have. And I salute all moms. Let me say that first. But unbeknownst to some moms who like to take on the role of mother and father, there's an absolute need for children to have a father and or father figure and or male role model, strong male role model. I don't mean just any male role model.
I don't think those
Because-
women like that. I don't think they like to take on the mother-father role. I think that they are single moms and inadvertently, because I've heard this before, that a woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man. I think
they
that's
can't.
true.
They can't.
And I don't think those women like those roles.
Well-
I think they feel like thrust into it.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for anybody. You're right. Well, I say that because there are some women, in spite of, out of spite,
Oh, okay.
I don't need you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm my son's father and his mother. I'll raise him myself. We don't need a man. And then some of that is drilled into these young men's heads. You don't need your father. So then there's an underlying resentment because of how mom feels.
Right,
It may
right.
not be how I feel.
Right.
So that's another journey within itself. A struggle that men tend to struggle with. Not that I don't, listen to my mom and I don't have an understanding of her feelings, but what if I don't feel the same way you feel about my dad? Not to say,
Right.
I'm not talking about our mom. So I'm saying in general, some women in general have an underlying hate for the father of their children. And they
Right.
feel like I would rather raise them by myself than have you have anything to do with it.
Yeah, and that's something actually that you're hitting on, and I'm not gonna take us too far off course, but that's something that we're talking about in an upcoming episode, because is that how you feel? Is it hate, or is that hurt? And now you're wearing armor and a mask because of hurt and disappointment.
I believe a lot of it has to do with hurt and disappointment, more so than hate. But see, also that hurt and that disappointment turns to hate
When you feed it.
when you fester it. Exactly. Getting back to what we were saying.
Yeah, when you realize, you said when
I came to realize that, buckle up.
Uh-oh, y'all.
I was living my life. Basically, my decision-making skills, my thought processes, my the way I understood things, my perspective came solely from a woman.
Right.
And it's hard to live a life like that as a man, because I look back on a lot of the decisions that I made, they were emotional. They were emotional. So, and then I literally called Dad up and I says, hey, I'm struggling. Well, no, I was in the bucket of tears, totally honest. And he was like, what's wrong? Is somebody bothering you? What's going on? Do I need to come? You know, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm messed up. Because, and this just what my explanation was, I came to figure out and understand that I was struggling as a person personally and in my life as a man, because I was thinking like a woman. And there was a part of my dad that I didn't know. There was a part of me that I needed to know.
That's right.
That would help me understand things more proverbially as a man.
But you can only get to that part understanding him more.
Understanding him more.
That's right.
So from that point on, my journey, I didn't cut my mom off, but I did kind of, so to speak, disconnected. Not even, I don't want to say disconnected. I just began to seek my father as opposed to always seeking my mom.
Yeah.
And then I began to see and understand things differently from a male perspective. And it's commonly said, and people speak it commonly everywhere we go. Women are emotional, men are more logical. I find that to be true. Because now that I've come into my second phase, is what I call it, because I begin to understand me more. I make different decisions now. And how I analyze things different now. My processes are different. I don't have an emotional approach. People say, oh, you cold, you mean. It's not that. I understand things differently now. I see things from a different perspective now. So it allows me to continue my journey, but on a different plane now.
I believe that both men and women are emotional. I think the distinction is that, ladies, I love y'all. I love all of us. Don't get mad at me, because I'm talking about me too. I think the difference is women are led by our emotions. Men are not led. I think we're both emotional, but women can be led.
Men at a different degree.
Yes, women can, and you'll be like,
that's
so
a better
you did
statement.
what? Why you do that? And you literally should be like, because I was mad.
Absolutely.
You did all that because you was mad?
Or I was upset.
Like, maybe not all that, And so I think that also there may be some gender differences, and we've talked about this a couple of times. You and have a different approach to connecting with mommy. And it is a tempered approach in, wanting to get beneath her armor. And my approach is like that bunny from Bugs Bunny. I just want to, that little girl, I want to hug you and love you and squeeze you. Like, my approach to wanting to get closer to her and connect more and get underneath that armor is that approach. Is like that little girl, I just want to love you and hug you and squeeze you and never, like, that's my approach.
Right.
And it could be because I'm a woman.
Right.
So I'm led by my emotion for her, right?
Right.
And you have a tempered approach to getting beneath her little armor because you're not led by the emotion. It's there, it just doesn't lead you.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes. So, talk to me a little bit about your. I believe that males and females are parented differently, right? And so, when you realized, and I think you realized it early enough on that I got to approach my parenting differently because I was showing up as an armored parent. How did that look for you with a boy child versus a girl child?
Showing up differently with my armor as a father and a boy child and a girl child.
Because I feel like it's different, and I'm going to just tell you why a little bit.
No, it's definitely different.
You and I were talking about your relationship with Marcus, and I was like, yeah, didn't you tell him all that stuff? And you're like, no, I don't tell my son everything about.
But not anymore.
Okay, tell me.
Because here's what little boys do, just from my perspective. I'm going to use Dad as an example. Dad had a life before his more matured life.
Facts.
Okay, and having had a look into his world as a young man, what young man don't want to be
You were like,
their
this
dad?
is cool.
It's cool.
Okay.
I'm going to do this.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it bigger than
And you should have been doing none of that.
I shouldn't have been doing none of that.
Okay. Okay.
So this is why, from my own perspective, I feel there are certain things that you just shouldn't necessarily share with your children.
Okay.
Because we don't know how it may impress upon or what it may impress upon their minds.
When they're impressionable.
Exactly.
Okay. That's
So,
fair.
I realize now there are some things that maybe I shouldn't have shared.
Okay. That you did early on.
That I did early on. And thinking that, hey, I'm being a great open parent. Nah, sometimes it's okay to not be a closed book, but sometimes it's okay to kind of like ad-lib some things as opposed to just
Yeah.
giving it all to you just straight and uncut.
Okay.
Because sometimes the naked mind can't handle X-rated adult issues.
Now, how do
even
you
if
make that transition though smoothly when they are no longer impressionable? Like, what's the guidance that you would give for making that transition then?
I think it just to me it gives you and your child's relationship a different format. Because sometimes you can share some things, and as children sometimes we have resentments towards our parents, and those things might resurface.
Okay.
You like this because you did that when you was young, and kids have a habit of saying things that are harmful and hurtful because they're hurt.
Yeah.
And they want you to hurt, so we stab, and we stab hard with big knives, But it's verbal. It's a verbal hurt. So I'm gonna lash out at you about who you used to be and the mistakes you made because I may be making some of the same mistakes. This is where we like to remind our parents, or you weren't perfect, and then the only thing we can say is we weren't trying to be.
Right.
And I was young too, and this is why sometimes I have to explain to Anaya. This is why. It's not that we're keeping you from having fun. We're just keeping you from making a bad choice or bad decision. So sometimes, and in most instances, this is why I've learned that even our mom, Angie, didn't let nobody in the house. Can we have company? Can we have sleepovers? It was no. Until we were at an age where you guys were at an age to where you could understand this is why I have girls. There's a boy in here, so you can't have girls. This is why I was made to go and sleep elsewhere when you guys, were allowed to have company. And I understand the importance of that now.
To be clear, we had company around the age of 17, and we still could go nowhere. And we want you to know
I took off.
Our cousin Tiffany is watching this, knowing that she spent half of her life standing outside talking to us because she couldn't come in. Now,
I used to sneak
I would
off.
just like to say this.
I used to take off. I wasn't staying in caged up. Like, anyway, I'm sorry, Mom, but anyway.
So sometimes they use that to hurt. They use that information against you.
So this is why I think sometimes it's not the best thing to always be an open book.
Okay, that's fair.
Because in the end, like I said, even introducing my son to my past and thinking that he wouldn't
glorify it or
challenge it.
Right.
Oh, my dad did that. And then sometimes we don't know, the mindset could be, well, my mom did this and she made it all right. So I'm going to try it too. I'm going to be all right. But we don't know. You know, so we don't want to introduce their minds to something that they might not fully understand. And then a lot of times what we do is jump into situations and they go, oh man, wait a minute. I wasn't prepared for this. It's going too far, you know, and then we're not taught all the time to always ask for help. It's like you got to be strong. You got to do it yourself. So you spend a lifetime figuring it out. And once you figure out, it's like, okay, all I had to do was ask for help and take instructions.
But you got real deep in the hole by that point sometimes.
By that time, sometimes you're deep in the hole. And then personality plays a lot and a huge role in people's perspective. Sometimes it's hard for people to listen because you have some people that know everything. There was a guy, I used to be him, the guy that knew everything. No, literally, I had a guy tell me one time, he says, I had gotten to in some trouble. I was on probation. And anyway, I was in a halfway house for violating my probation. And it was when I first embraced Islam. And in my mind, Islam was the word.
Right.
We were smarter. Muslims were smarter. We knew everything. And if you wasn't Muslim, your perspective didn't matter. I didn't want to hear it. What you had to say was garbage. It was this, it was that. So it was a guy that at the time, he was involved in the streets. But I never, for some reason, never really judged this guy or his personality. But unbeknownst to me, his father was an imam, who's a person that leads a Muslim congregational prayer. And he was also what we consider to be an emir, who's a leader of a Muslim community. So this guy was well learned on Islam and had a great, profound understanding. And he pulled me to the side one day, and because I was, you know, running around the halfway house, and it was, shut up, you don't know what you're talking, you're not Muslim. Stuff.
Oh, God.
I was this militant little dude, angry little dude with this big beard.
Turning people off of Islam.
Right.
They're like,
no,
if this what it look like, I don't want it.
None. I'm cool. Listen here, little bro. You go over there.
Right.
Keep
You
that
can
over
have
there.
that.
But I thank Kurt to this day because I didn't even want to say the brother name, but don't nobody know who I'm talking about.
We'll bleep that out, y'all.
Right. But he really made me look at myself, man. And it was like, wow, he right. What he did, he planted a mustard seed. He was leaving. It was a Friday. I'm going to tell the story real fast. He was going on a weekend visit. And I guess he wanted to catch me before I got started on my militant rant. He said, excuse me, Marcus, man, little brother, come here, man. Let me talk to you for a minute. I'm Kurt, what's going on, bro? He said, man, can I talk to you for a minute, man? He said, I'd just like to leave you with something. And I said, well, talk to me, man. What's going on? He said, man, a lot of times in life, a lot of what we know won't get us as far as we think. So we have to learn a lot more. He said, so the best way I can explain it to you is I just want to leave you with this. He said, he who knows he knows nothing. He's dangerous. Stay away from him. He said, he who knows he knows a little bit is in slumber. He said, wake him and teach him. He said, he who knows he knows nothing is smartest of all because he'll learn everything.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And he said, now, which one are you?
Mm.
And he walked away from me.
Mm.
So
He got you together.
from Friday evening, well, let's say early Friday afternoon, until Sunday evening, I was running around this little halfway house and I wasn't talking to nobody. I wasn't reacting to nobody because all was going through my mind was he who knew he knew nothing.
You thinking about
Wait a
it,
minute.
right?
What did he say? He who knows he know a little bit is awake, but teach him. But he, wait a minute. What did he? Wait till Kurt get here. So as soon as I saw Kurt, I rushed straight up on him. But this time I had a pencil and a piece of paper.
Yeah, okay.
I said, Kurt, what's up, man? He said, I knew you was going to be waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I got you thinking, huh? I said, yeah, forget all that, man. What was that you said to me? And I often pass that on to people because I came to realize I was he that knew he knew.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I was not only disastrously pushing people away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know half of what I thought I
But you
did.
thought you knew. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I practice now being the one that knows he knows not.
That's excellent.
Yeah, because I mean, the only person, this is just my observation from life and life's lessons and levels and issues and challenges and journeys, the only person that no longer has to learn is the person that's no longer alive.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So therefore, why not continually welcome the lessons that God affords you?
That's what's up.
That's important.
Now, our producer has told me I need to wrap it up, but real quick, I'm gonna get one rapid reflection from you before we wrap up.
All right.
So I'm just gonna give you a sentence. You're gonna finish this sentence, okay?
All right. I kind of liked this part.
So, so think about, as we've talked about emotional armor, and we talked about armored parenting and all that. So, the father that I used to be once believed.
The father that I used to be once believed that being completely stern was the solution and the answer.
Okay. And so then the father that I am now knows that, and have been taught through Islam, that you have to be, as described in understanding, you have to be firm but compassionate. So which means that in listening to and or addressing my children's issues, I allow them to decide. I no longer decide what the outcome is, or what the difference may be made, or how you address said issues. It's not I'm the parent, do it my way. Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we have an issue now. How are we going to deal with that? Or how are you more or less going to deal with it? So you learn and you grow. I kind of think that now, the dad that I am, I learned to be, I don't want to say the cool dad or the fun dad. There's no such thing.
Okay.
There's no such thing.
Okay.
But you can be
like flexible.
that's the word I'm kind of fishing for. But what I'm more or less trying to say, you can kind of be in the middle. You don't always have to be the most stern person, even when it comes to either parent, the mom or the dad. You don't always have to be the most stern, because what it makes you when you're not is you're the parent that's selected to be dependent on more, because it makes you the better listener. It makes you the one who sought more. If you're kind of in between, firm but more compassionate,
Right.
because it allows your children to go, well, you know what, Dad might not like to hear this, but
Yeah.
I can talk to him.
Yeah.
He's not going to judge me if I say I did this, so I can talk to him.
Right.
So if I'm the old dad, the firm guy, oh, why you messed that up? I told you to do it like this. You know, sometimes, here's what I kind of, okay, Ma, you might hate me for this. Because I know you watching.
Don't get in trouble.
I'm 51, I can't. Here's what I often try to advise my mother, man. And it's
You
only
still giving her
because,
advice at 51?
yeah, I try. Because here's the thing, Quran says that, first of all, our parents bore us at a young age. You and I have the knowledge to know and understand that. So therefore, as we previously discussed, they made uninformed decisions. They were young. They knew not what they were doing. So therefore, the Quran says to lower our wings to our parents. And if we can't advise them and offer them or render them a different understanding than what they've held on to for years, because this is why sometimes people don't have great relationships with their parents, because some parents refuse to let go of the old ways.
Yeah.
Now is the time to be able, and this is just, I just want to add this too. Here's what I learned, and it actually helped me and my son's relationship and my other kids as well. When our children, including ourselves, reach a certain age, as a parent, I feel that my job is no longer to overpower you with decisions and how to do things and forcibly make you do things because of my parental perspective and because of what I instilled in you, because I gave you said values. You should do it said way because you my child and I taught you this and gave you that and yada, so on and so on and so forth. Now, here's where I learned to back up. I had to reevaluate. My son's a 30-year-old adult. My youngest is 16. My oldest is in her 30s. In between there is a 28-year-old child by marriage, adult person by marriage. She's no longer a child. So what I had come to understand within myself and acknowledge, because my son and I wound up in a situation that really I had to sit down and realize had absolutely nothing to do with me. So, but being the father, I wanted to exercise the authority.
Okay.
You should do it this way and do it that way because this is the way I taught you and this is what men do and yada, yada, yada. But I had to come to realize this is his life. Who are you to make his decisions for him and how he goes about doing anything in his life? You don't have the power or the authority. That was my epiphany. You don't have the power nor the authority. I know a lot of times we sit back and our children go through things. I went through some things I'm sure it was sore for my mother to watch. Really heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. But understandably enough, she didn't have the authority nor the power to go and make me do anything. So I backed up. So now what happens is, instead of my son going elsewhere for information or understanding, we have a thing now. I don't ask questions. No matter how much I don't like it, no matter how much of a roller coaster his life or her life, my daughter's life may or may not be on, I don't have the power nor the authority to demand anything. You're grown adult people. So what I'm here for at a certain point, once you reach a certain age, is for instruction and support.
Y'all heard it here first. If your kids are grown, you just here for instruction and support. Remember, you heard it here
I
first.
can't go in and make your household. If I walk in and my kid's house a mess, clean this house up. I taught you better. If that's how they want to live, that's how they live.
And I know we got to wrap up. Do you know some people, adult, full-fledged adult people, parents have parents who do that?
And this is what I mean.
And
they
it
don't have
probably
the right
doesn't feel
nor
like
the
a good
authority.
visit, right?
I'm sure.
Because what
and
you
it
want
makes
is
you
to visit.
uncomfortable. Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to be made to feel like a child. Here's what a lot of parents don't realize. Yes, we're your child, or I mean your kids or your children. but we're not childs anymore.
Right.
So you have to address us as the adults that we are. And just like my kids, I don't treat them like kids. They're adult people. So I have to understand, man, there's boundaries, bro.
Right.
If I want to say something, I think it real hard to myself. Like, no, seriously.
I think
Or
it real hard
here's
and
where
keep it in your mind.
If I find my kids and myself in a place where I think they're receptive, I always enter a conversation with anybody. I don't care who it is, no matter what the circumstances. Hey, since we're in a nice place here, I'd like to speak with you. And if I may, can we speak about this? So that gives that person the opportunity to or be open about the conversation or not be open, to be receptive or to not be receptive, to invite and or reject the conversation. And I'm flexible either way. It used to be, no, Dad, I don't want to talk. Well, you're going to listen.
Right. But you
We don't have
learn.
the right.
You
We don't have the
learn.
right. So now if it's, well, no, I'm not really comfortable with speaking about that, it's okay. I can understand that. I respect that. So I learn.
I love it. I love it. Y'all.
Did I talk your ears off?
No. But we got some gold. We got some good nuggets. We had a good time.
You
Thank
met your
you again.
adult brother. Huh?
That's right. Thank you again for coming to spend this time with us.
Oh, that's cool. Honestly, I was nervous afar, which means
Yeah, what
like
does that mean?
before I got here, I was
okay.
I had drawbacks, reluctance. I'm like, she thinks she gonna pick my brain. No,
Okay.
I actually had fun.
It was easy peasy.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's right.
Seriously.
Well, listen, Honoring the Armor family, we are so grateful for your support. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Honoring the Armor podcast. We're releasing new episodes every other week. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't miss out.